President Biden says the pandemic is over. But is it really? We'll have the latest reaction from the news and from the Young Turks in just a few minutes. But first, let's update you on the situation in Ray. If you guys remember on Friday, there was a hoax phone call saying that there was a gunman in the school. And the police, and there was a whole lot of police presence. Tonight we're going to hear from the police chief of CCISD and from parents who have their greatest reactions. So here's Bill Churchwell.
Tonight with a follow-up to that active shooter hoax at Ray High School on Friday.
Officials are investigating the latest false call in our area that led to such a large law enforcement response. The school going into a lockdown, panicked parents showing up outside of the school.
Yeah, tonight we're hearing from the chief of police of CCISD about the response as he shares a message for parents. Our Bill Churchwell has more tonight in this report.
Simple. A prank is nothing funny.
Parent Dwayne Hamilton says he's still upset at the person who called in a fake active shooter threat at Ray High School.
Parents trying to fight the cops. There's some parents at the same time telling them to calm down so they can get to their kids.
It was those strong emotions from some parents that had law enforcement spreading out their resources, not only conducting their investigation inside the school to make sure there was no active threat, but also dealing with those heated emotions outside.
I understand as a parent, you know, how we get scared and stuff because we don't know what's the situation that's going on, but we also have to understand the cops need their space and they're doing what they need to keep our children safe.
CCISD Police Chief Kirby Warnke commends the officers who were able to keep their composure and do their jobs during the otherwise stressful event.
A person's loved ones, that's their whole world. Help us, though, help them in the event that we needed to.
He says parents can do just that by staying informed through trusted sources like the district's messenger service.
Well, first and foremost, make sure the phone number you have on file with CCISD is correct. So as soon as the principal had something to say, they put it out on school messenger. If the phone number is bad, you're not going to get that message.
Saying it's important to avoid rumors that might spread online.
You hear different stories. So whoever possibly heard that story was the parents running up here crying.
I got a text message from the school.
I heard the
think it was sent out to all the parents.
When it comes to the initial response of law enforcement during the incident, parents we spoke with shared the same reaction as the chief.
I think that law enforcement responded promptly. They were here quickly.
I think the city of Corpus Christi should be proud in the efforts displayed by our first responders and the campus.
Bill Churchwell, 3 News.
And as we come on the air, there are more school threats. Let's take a look at 4. In San Antonio, a man was arrested for making terroristic threats against 2 private schools. According to the arrest warrant, 25-year-old Hayden Kuamora threatened to kill coaches and teachers and show witness photos of guns. And the school says, "We will be arguing security measures for the foreseeable future of an obvious precaution." That's part of the statement. But the district attorney's office says Cuomo remains in custody in the jail, and they recommended $100,000 bonds and felony charges. They said the magistrate judge says the bonds at $50,000 each. There were pictures of guns from him, and he had the gun, so I'm glad he's in jail. The right thing happens. Next. Girl charged for making threats towards Deer Park Elementary School. A Deer Park police made an arrest Monday threat against an elementary school. According to the Facebook post, Palmer was made aware of a threatening social media post. Investigators say the suspected leads about 3 a.m. By noon confronted their suspect. By 1 p.m., officers took a juvenile into custody. She's in juvenile detention charged with making terroristic threats and inducing panic. The police had increased presence by the school just in case. That's good. Number 3. An Idaho man who called in a bomb threat and racist slurs to Portland's Lincoln High School was sentenced to probation. In Idaho, a 21-year-old man who phoned in a series of vile racist threats to blow up Portland's Lincoln High School last year was sentenced Monday to 3 years probation and community service. His name is Julian Ray Neves. This happened over a year ago, and then he phoned Portland. He made calls to school 2 days, then phoned the Portland police officer and watched first. And yeah, he ordered Hannah's 80 hours community service in the next 3 years, as well as requiring mental health counseling and treatment during his 3 years probation. And finally, a juvenile arrested for following threatening school media aimed at Deer Park School. One of them reads, "If I showed you my flaws," the other one reads, "If I reach my breaking point, everyone that lives in DP and goes to be prepared for 9/22. It's going to be my favorite day ever. I'm going to make sure that everybody and their moms remember that very date. Have fun while it lasts." That's a threat. So again, you make threat like that guy who said, if you think you're going to post a threat, fake or real, I can promise you, you're only going to get out of school, but you will, but you're going to jail. And you may think, oh, I'm just joking around. It's just a prank. A prank is a prank. Remember the shut up challenge? If you think it's funny, like, oh, shut up, Mom, then your dad gets mad. Dad, we're just joking, it's a prank. But if you really seriously say, shut up, Mom. Excuse me? Get your ass over here. Like that. Parents, monitor what your children post on Facebook. Monitor your kids' social media. That's all. That's the biggest mistake parents make. Parents don't monitor social media. Like I did last year. Last season we did cyber safety, talking about all those things. And even especially protecting your kids from online predators. That's something I'll never forget. Coming up next, President Biden declares the pandemic is over. If you watched 60 Minutes last night, you know exactly what I'm talking about. You'll hear from President Biden, and you're also going to hear from the Young Turks. Stay with us. Up front tonight, is the pandemic over? If you watched 60 Minutes last night, Scott Pelley's interview with Joe Biden during the Detroit Car Show, he said the pandemic is over. But is it really over? If you watched the interview last night, you know what's going on. So you're gonna meet one doctor who has his expert opinion because let's just watch.
2.5 years after the start of the coronavirus pandemic that changed our lives, our world forever, President Biden has declared the pandemic over.
The pandemic is over. We still have a problem with COVID. We're still doing a lot of work on it. But the pandemic is over. If you notice,
The president made the declaration last night on 60 Minutes during a trip to the Detroit Auto Show. Joining us now live is Dr. Peter Chin-Hong from UCSF. Thank you so much for joining us, Doctor. So do you agree with the president's assessment that the pandemic is over? And what does that really mean for the average person? Should we throw away our masks? What does this mean?
Well, Liz, I was really surprised by President Biden's remark. I think it took a lot of people by surprise. Yeah. And for me, it's not really over. In the hospital, we're still seeing sick people with COVID, even though it's much lower than before. And I think at the heart of the matter is two things, really. Is it predictable? The answer is emphatically no. I don't know when the next increase in cases is going to come. And number two, are we satisfied with the number of deaths that we're seeing? And the answer again is no, because, it's about, when you average out what we're seeing, it's between 100,000 and 200,000 deaths a year, which is several-fold higher than influenza.
Right, and still the numbers are still incredibly high. And we've seen the numbers trending in the right direction here in the Bay Area. They continue to go down, at least for now. So where do things really stand in terms how much of the virus is still circulating around our region?
Well, we're in the low transmission category now. About 7 out of the 9 Bay Area counties are in low, which means that if you are, non-immunocompromised or elderly and boosted, you can probably go out in most places without a mask. I would still carry my mask around because, again, it all depends on context. And if you're in one of the higher risk categories, you may still want to keep your mask on, particularly if it's crowded, indoors, you're there for a long period of time.
So I guess this lends itself to the next question. When you talk about steps recommended moving forward to protect themselves, we know the vaccines are available. We know the masks work. Anything else that you would suggest folks kind of moving forward in this kind of new reality that they can do to protect themselves from COVID?
Yes, I mean, I think one area that we haven't emphasized as much is ventilation.
Okay.
And, you know, it's just as important as masking and testing and you know, in the category of things that we can do to protect ourselves. I know there's been a lot of attention to ventilation in schools, in the workplace. I hope that it continues to be paid attention to, because it's the gift that keeps on giving. It's not just for COVID, it's for a whole host of other infectious diseases that are spread in droplets and by airborne routes.
I want to ask you one more question. It has to do with schools, because each school is different. Some are requiring masks inside. Some are still are completely saying masks are optional. Where do you think we should land in all of this in terms of kids?
Well, I think it's a moving target. For right now, being in the low transmission zone, I think it's probably okay in a well-ventilated classroom to not have masks right now. Probably in the highest risk kids, their parents may still feel more comfortable for them to wear a mask. But again, watch the numbers like the weather report. You know, you watch the weather report for the kids to wear raincoats and umbrellas. So when the going is tough, you're going to put that mask back on with very low threshold.
And of course, flu season is also right around the corner, so we have to think about that as well. All right, Dr. Peter Chin Hong from UCSF, thank you so much.
Well,
thanks so much, Liz.
So, let's look at the cases right now. So far, we're over 100,000 cases. That's 108K. We are 7.5 total cases in the state. And there's no new cases, so 90,000 deaths. Okay. As for hospitalizations, we're over 3,400. And vaccination rate, 7.6 to 62.9. 18 million, 21.6 million. Our schools. Let's check out Flower Bluff. In Flower Bluff, well, this is a surprise, 0. Everyone's doing great so far. So far, we're at 0. That's good. But we got to keep doing these things. Masks, social distance, hand washing, everything. Well-ventilated areas. And quarantine, this is the biggest one ever. Don't be leaving quarantine. If you're quarantined, stay in quarantine area. Do not leave quarantine. 5 days minimum. After the 5th day, get tested. If you're negative, okay. If you're positive, that's in the 5 days. And if you're going to be having parties, get prepared. Get your COVID tests. And start asking people, are you vaccinated? They say no. Nicely ask them to socially distance. Or have them take a COVID test. If you're planning, if you're going to have a party, a birthday party at the house, blah, 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 and you want to have friends over, I recommend you get your at-home COVID test and wait 15 minutes. If it's negative, you are welcome to come in. If it's positive, you're out the door. That's the bottom line here. There's more about this when we return. We're gonna hear reaction from the Young Turks. That's still ahead, as well as more updates from Uvalde and Oxford. What's happening to Ethan Crumley and the parents? What's happening in Uvalde? Stay with us. Let's bring you up to date on some thrilling stories. Just 4 days ago, the Michigan School Board president resigns months after the school shooting. But still, lawsuits have been filed by attorneys. The Oxford School Board president, Tom Donnelly, who has been heavily criticized, resigned from his position months after Michigan school shooting, after leaving 4 students dead. 7 people, including teachers, were shot. All 3 claimants pleaded not guilty to their charges. The school board rejected repeated offers of Michigan attorneys. I mean, resignation came 10 months too late. Listed many things. Donnelly could have done some things, including the person changed school security. Donnelly did not immediately respond to ABC News request for comment, so that was months early. So what about Uvalde? Nothing new in Uvalde. Just 6 hours ago, Bad Bunny brings survivors of Uvalde school shooting to his concert. That's great news right there. Some very fantastic news from Uvalde. Well, there's nothing left to do in Uvalde. Don't go away. When we come back, we're going to hear from the Young Turks and see their reaction to when President Biden said, the pandemic is over. Stay with us. Tonight we're focusing on President Biden saying the pandemic is over. So far we heard from, have you seen the 60 Minutes interview from yesterday? You know exactly what I'm talking about. So, how does the Anchors from Young Turks feel about this? Let's watch. Because I take extra, when it comes to COVID-19, I take extra precautions. I watch it like a hawk. Like when you're watching the weather. I watch it like a hawk and I take it very seriously.
Again, 60 Minutes aired an interview they had with President Joe Biden, and in the context of that interview, he felt the need to declare that the coronavirus pandemic is over. Now, he was speaking to Scott Pelley, and he said the following, quote, "The pandemic is over. The pandemic is over. We still have a problem with COVID. We're still doing a lot of work on it, but the pandemic is over." Now, he qualified the statement about the pandemic being over by saying that they're still doing a lot of work on it. But I want to remind you all that the federal government has certainly taken a step back from providing any type of aid to ordinary Americans, especially when it comes to testing. They're no longer sending free tests to people. Individuals who have no private insurance are very likely going to pay for vaccinations and boosters out of pocket. So to say that they're doing a lot of work is interesting because I don't know what he was referring to there. Even the CDC, in regard to the data that they're releasing, says that they're going to be scaling back considerably. Now, Biden pointed to maskless attendees at the Detroit Auto Show, where the interview was conducted, to make his case. And he says, if you notice, no one's wearing masks. Everybody seems to be in pretty good shape. And so I think it's changing, and I think this is a perfect example of it. Now, that led to a lot of backlash from progressives, including Mehdi Hassan, who says one of the many reasons they're not wearing masks is because people like Biden keep falsely telling them the pandemic is over. I just want to give you one more point of criticism. Biden is saying the pandemic is over as transmission rates stay high, as Americans with long COVID outnumber immunocompromised Americans, as 4 million workers are sick, as at-risk people scream for safe access, transportation, and education. Make this make sense to me. And she does have a point, especially when you look at the number of Americans who are still dying from COVID, an average of 400 people a day. And I'm happy to get into that data with more detail in just a moment. But Cenk, I wanted you to jump in and share your thoughts.
Yeah, I'm really conflicted about this one. I don't think it's straightforward at all. In fact, to the point where we have a poll on it, I know that the poll lacks subtlety. But hear us out and then vote on it. We'll put the link down below in the description box on YouTube and Facebook. It's at TYT.com/polls. Is COVID-19 pandemic over? Yes or no? Look, part of the reason I mentioned the poll first, Anna, is because with all the nuance notwithstanding, if I'm going to vote on that poll, I vote yes, it's over. So now let me explain. As I said earlier in the show on a different story, Biden is partly doing this to appease business interests. They want to be able to take away your sick pays and sick days and all that, right? So I'm not unaware of that, and I don't like that, right? But at the same time, COVID is not over, but the pandemic portion is over. So, you know, if you've got a pre-existing condition or you're older, etc., and there's good reasons why you want to wear a mask, bless your heart. And if you ask me to wear a mask around you, I'll do it in a second. Happy to do it, okay? But otherwise, what are we going to do? Are we going to still quarantine? Are we going to still wear a mask around even if we don't have any symptoms? No, of course not. That's absurd. And I think it's pretty close to the flu now, and we don't do that for the flu.
It's not.
Okay, all right. So
yeah. So
give us the facts.
Yeah. I looked into the data because, Cenk, just to be clear about where I stood, I mean, I thought that the number of people dying from coronavirus was pretty low, right? I thought maybe it's comparable to the number of people dying from like the common flu. If you believe that, you would be mistaken. So I specifically looked at CDC data. I wanted to compare data from the same organization, and they put out numbers in regard to people dying from the flu in the United States. And they looked at October 1st, 2021 through June 11th of 2022. And these are preliminary numbers. It's important to keep that in mind because, as you can see, the number of flu deaths in this fiscal year is 5,000 to 14,000. So they're still looking over the data to determine what the exact number is, but that's the ballpark, right? Then I looked at the CDC data specifically for COVID deaths in the exact same period. And here's what we know. In that same period, there was a whopping 312,117 Americans who died from COVID, according to the CDC. So compare more than 300,000 Americans dying from COVID to, let's give it the highest estimate, 14,000 Americans dying from the common flu.
So that's a really good fact, and it's interesting, and it gives you good context. And overall, it does go a long way towards convincing me that we're not at the flu stage yet. But it has two giant holes in it. Number one, it's over a period of years where COVID was ranging. It's not talking about today, right? So if you had 5 to 14,000 flu deaths stretching all the way back into the middle of 21 to the middle of 22, yeah, of course the COVID deaths would be way, way higher, right? And then secondly, it also doesn't take into account the jackasses that aren't taking the vaccine, which are the great majority of people who are dying.
I took the vaccine twice. I ain't no jackass.
If you want me to wear a mask while you're not taking a vaccine or wearing a mask, my answer is a super hard no.
Yeah, look, I get it, and I understand the frustration. To me, it's not even about whether you wear a mask or not, right? I have no problem wearing a mask if I'm asked to wear it, because I want people to feel safe, even if it's people who are being annoyingly stubborn and refusing to get the vaccine. My issue is the federal government taking a massive step back and pretending as if there's nothing going on, like everything's back to normal when it's not. And people need resources in order to, we want to encourage people to keep getting tested. And people are not going to go out of their way and spend their limited resources on tests if they have to pay for them out of pocket. I'm concerned about the federal government backing off of providing that resource. I'm also concerned about the federal government completely backing off of providing compensation for the vaccine. So individuals who do not have private insurance won't have coverage, and they'd have to pay for the vaccine out of pocket. And so if you think it was already difficult to persuade people to get vaccinated and boosted, it's going to be even more difficult to do it. And you're right, Cenk. What is the motivating factor here? And at the end of the day, I think it's politics, and it's to help Biden's corporate buddies out. And that's not okay.
Yes, but Anna, there's a couple more things there. Look, so first of all, is it mainly for business interests, as we talked about earlier in the show? Yes, because they want to be able to take away their COVID policies and point to a Democratic president and say, hey, it's over, so I'm not going to give you as many sick days anymore, right? So I know the primary reason behind it, and I'm against that. And I'm against cutting off the resources. But as a matter of optics, and I don't say that but lightly, I'm really against taking away the resources. So these days you have to repeat things like 8 times for people to not mischaracterize what you're saying. As a matter of optics, if Democrats are constantly screaming, oh my God, the pandemic is raging, when that's not the experience of real people in the country, it doesn't help. It doesn't look realistic. It frustrates people. It makes people think the Democrats are using it for political reasons. So we have to find a better balance here in terms of both the policy and the politics.
Thanks for watching The Young Turks. I really appreciate it. Another way to show support is to...
I agree with what they said. I take them very seriously. I mean, what do? Get drunk and go, I'm going to go on such a mess that the pandemic is over. And I'm your buddy back going, yeah. Well, he was like, oh, the pandemic is over. Pandemic is over. Everyone's going, pandemic is over. It goes to back. We have COVID. We have Karens. More school shootings. And now you want to say the pandemic is over? We still have COVID. And you want to sit there and say, oh, the pandemic is over. Let's all panic. It's unacceptable. I agree. The federal government is backing off. So when you say like, are you with? You may be asking, are you with the federal government? Are you siding with the federal government? You're siding with what President Biden say? No, I'm siding to what opinions are matter, and I agree with Anna and Cenk and what's his name from the Young Turks. I agree to what they're saying. So maybe say, oh, in other words, you're siding with Biden here. No, let me tell you something. I don't vote. You say, oh, you don't vote? Well, you're un-American. I'm not going to get into that. But I'm all for supporting. Like if someone tells me put on your mask, we all feel safe. Like okay, I'll put on a mask. But I'm twice vaccinated. I'm vaccinated twice. No boosters. And I'm outraged by what he said. Even more outrageous, when we come back, the reaction, if you saw that Little Mermaid trailer, it caused an outrage. We're going to hear from African Americans who feel shamed after that trailer. And I'm upset talking about this. Stay with us. Did you watch the trailer for The Little Mermaid? After I saw this report from Inside Edition, I was stunned. I was stunned. I was very stunned. Let me tell you something. If you watch the original Little Mermaid, it was a white girl. Now we have...
The new trailer for The Little Mermaid is generating extraordinary reaction, especially among black girls.
Oh, she's black! Oh, that's a black mermaid! She's like me!
Many of them are mesmerized watching a cherished fairy tale character who looks just like them. 22-year-old actress Halle Bailey stars as Ariel in Disney's new live-action film, and she looks nothing like the animated Little Mermaid with red hair from the original 1989 classic. Wish I could be part of that world. Parents have been posting these charming videos to social media, many saying how important it is that their daughters see themselves reflected on the big screen. An extraordinary 104 million people have viewed the sneak peek. But apparently not everyone is happy to see a black Little Mermaid. Hard to believe, but the trailer has received more than 1.5 million dislikes on YouTube. Then there are the ugly, racist tweets. The Little Mermaid is white, not black.
What people have to understand is that this is a beautiful opportunity for young people to see themselves in a situation and in a way in which they have not before.
Halle Bailey says she's not focusing on the hate. I'm so grateful for what it will do for all the other little black and brown boys and girls who will see themselves in me.
She's brown.
And all she has to do is look at the excitement of the little girls embracing her.
She's black.
Can I get some white bread on that judgmental sandwich? Can I get some white bread? We gotta keep race out of this. I mean, let me say this. Okay, for 6 years this show has stayed out of racism, but after this, it's off the table. So yeah, it's coming off the table. We're dealing with this right now. Okay, if Disney wants to have a black mermaid come on, let them. It's your opinion whether you want to say like, oh, she's brown, whatever. Okay. Like, for years I watched that original and it's perfect. A white mermaid? I'm not judging. Like, if Disney wants to judge people on content of the character, then they're racist. This ain't race. You understand me? If they want to recruit other members to play Ariel, then okay. That is their decision. There is a rule I live by. When you choose the behavior, then you choose the consequences. That is what needs to happen here. It's like, It's like if Disney chooses to have a Black Mermaid, then that's their choice. The consequences, lots of dislikes and hateful messages. That's what happened. A lot of dislikes happened. And after talking about this, I feel like I'm racist. Okay, we've done 3 racist reports. We've done one where black children can't succeed. That's racist. We've done on the input association test. That confirms if you're a racist or not. That's not racist. And now we have this. You may be asking me, are you going to go see the movie? After all the dislikes and the racial comments, I'm not watching it. You shouldn't be talking about you shouldn't be talking about The Little Mermaid. I don't care nothing about it. I love Disney. I love Marvel. Disney owns Marvel. Disney owns Marvel and Star Wars and all that stuff. It's their choice. If Disney owns DC Comics, then that's their choice. That crap would never happen. That's like if Sony said, okay, we're going to come out with this new expansion module to PlayStation 3. You're going to be able to play Xbox games on it. Or Xbox does the same thing. Xbox One, okay, we're going to come out with this new expansion module for the Xbox One X. You're going to be able to play PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 5 games on there. There'd be lawsuits up the ass. And after watching that, am I going to go see it? Probably not. I'm probably going to show this to my sister. Yeah, she reacts. Because I've watched The Little Mermaid. Years ago, when I was a kid, I watched that movie. A very, very good. It's a good musical. A good one. I wonder how the original. We may have time for. I wonder how the original. I wonder how, what's her name? I wonder how Jodie Benson reacts. Well, we're out of time for you. Well, do we have time? You know what? We may have time. You know what? We're gonna have time. Let's bring out Jodie Benson. Jodie, what do you have to say?
Be where the people are.
Well, the people are watching the teaser trailer for the live-action version of The Little Mermaid, which has racked up over 5 million views in less than 24 hours on Disney's YouTube page.
Out of the sea.
After director Rob Marshall and Halle Bailey were on hand at D23 Expo to unveil the teaser, it was posted on YouTube, and it's currently the #2 trending video.
Wish I could be.
One of the individuals who didn't have to rush to YouTube to see the teaser when it was released last night was Jodie Benson, who voiced Ariel in the 1989 animated version.
Up where they stay all day in the sun.
Jodie got an advance peek at the teaser and shared her thoughts on her Instagram story once it was released. So beautiful, absolutely thrilled to see the trailer and sneak peek at D23 today and cheer for Robbie, Dr. Rob Marshall, and Halle on stage. Congratulations, much love to all the creative team, cast, and crew. And yeah, Jodie is also at D23 this year, still doing autograph sessions for a character she voiced 33 years ago.
Hey friends, it's Jodie Benson at D23. Can't wait to see you at Loungefly today at 2:30 p.m. to autograph books, as well as amazing Loungefly goodies.
Jodie actually performed Part of Your World at the 2011 D23 Expo.
Wouldn't you think of the girl who has everything?
Jodie said on the Everything Iconic podcast that she got to give Halle her best wishes as she passes the fins to the next big screen, Ariel.
I was able to have a very quick little meet and greet with her and give her a hug and wish her well, and just give her lots and lots of love and support, and be a big cheerleader. So I'm super, super excited to see the movie in May of 23. It's going to be awesome.
Some very nice words from Jodie. And yeah, it's amazing that Jodie still has such a massive fan base for a character that she voiced 33 years ago. That, yeah, you didn't even see her face.
Wish I could be.
But I mean, her version of Part of Your World from the 1989 movie has 229 million views.
It's the best song
ever. That
ever.
was just posted in 2014. So yeah, The Little Mermaid is pretty popular. I think this live action version is going to be huge. What do you think?
Part of that one.
And after hearing that, I'm thinking I'm going to go see it. You say, well, you're probably not going to go see it. Well, aren't you? You were racist. I stand by my decision. I stand by my opinion. You may have your own opinions. I have my own opinions. So if you don't like my opinions, stay out of my way. If you don't like what I have to say, that's your choice. But this show stands by to what I talk about. There's no saying that everyone's entitled to their opinion. But after seeing that, I think I'm going to go see it next year. I don't know about you, but if you're going to go see it, I warn you. I dare you. You know what? No, I dare you next year to see that movie. I dare I dare you guys to go see it. But I forewarn you. You will be pleased and stunned, and even from what's happening on news. You know why? Because I am going to see every Disney movie. Like, I love Disney movies. I'm going to spend another hour doing this because, let me tell you, I love Disney movies. And that's all of this edition to Give Me a Break Monday. We'll see you again for Give Me a Break Wednesday. And if there's any African Americans that are offended out there during this segment, I apologize. I'd rather watch The Little Mermaid while eating fish sticks and buying fish and chips. I'd rather watch the new one while eating crabs. I'd rather talk about a Yo Mama joke I'm going to tell a nasty joke about mama and crabs than... Well, I'm here at YouTube. Give me a break. Good night, everyone.